After you take a bath, there's always this white liquid left floating on top. You know anything about that? What's that? What do you mean? I've noticed it every single time recently, right after you've used the bath. I'm Sarah. I'm 48 years old. I'm living with my husband Tom, just the two of us. I work part-time at a grocery store during the day. Tom is 50, working at a machinery company, and recently got bumped up to director. Our daughter, Mary, is 25 and in the IT field. She got hitched last year and now lives in a condo close by with her hubby, Steve. Tom's been swamped since his promotion to director, coming home late. Me, I've been filling the alone time until Tom gets back by watching shows and movies I've taped. Of late, I've been dining solo, taking a bath, and crashing after my shows, not waiting up for Tom. He seems to be grabbing drinks out, barely ever dining at home, hitting the bath as soon as he's in, then off to sleep. The mornings always seem to be a rush for him. Sleeping till the last minute, barely mumbling a morning before scarfing down breakfast and dashing off to work. After my husband leaves for work, I take my time with breakfast, and then it's on to cleaning the house. That's my daily routine. On days I have my part-time job, I do the cleaning and laundry after I come back. Our home's bathtub has a 24-hour heating system, a modern machine that automatically recirculates and reheats the water. It filters, sterilizes, and heats the water before filling the tub. For my husband, who comes home at irregular times, being able to take a hot bath anytime is something he really values. But recently, there's been something bothering me. After he bathes, there's always this white liquid floating on top. We don't use any bath additives, so while cleaning, I feel disgusted and puzzled by it. When I take a bath, I never encounter such a thing. I thought it might just be some gunk, not thinking too deeply about it and scooping it out with a bucket. On a day off from my part-time job, I called my daughter during lunch break. "Mary, everything going okay with your life?" "Yeah, managing both work and home somehow. How's Dad doing?" "Since his promotion, he's been coming home late. I have no idea when he'll be back today either." "Then I'll come visit the house today." "I'm fine. Prioritize your husband, okay?" "Steve's on a business trip this week and won't be home." I feel lonely, and I think Steve would feel more at ease knowing I'm at my parents' house. "I'll tell Steve myself, so don't worry about it." "Is that so? Well, can't be helped then. Your dad will be thrilled to know you're home and will probably come back early." "Is that how it goes?" "Yes, so I'll prepare your favorite dinner. Come over once you're done with work," I told her. I then messaged Tom that Mary would be coming over. Tom always asked me to inform him whenever Mary was coming over. Tom, who adores Mary, would surely come home from work on time today. Uncharacteristically, Tom came home early. It seemed he had managed to leave work on time just because Mary would be there. Mary, Tom, and myself had dinner together for the first time in a while. The conversation flowed smoothly with casual updates about our lives. Tom was all smiles throughout. Just having Mary around seemed to put him in a great mood. After dinner, Mary and I did the dishes and cleaned up together. Afterward, we decided to take turns for the bath, with Mary first, then me, then Tom. When I got out of the bath, my daughter, who had finished before me, had set up the TV for us to watch a drama, as if she'd been waiting just for that. Settling in front of the TV with drinks in hand, we sometimes laughed and sometimes cried, thoroughly enjoying our blissful time immersed in the drama's world. Before we knew it, my husband, who had also finished bathing, was reading with a beer on a sofa a little away from us, occasionally looking over and smiling, probably because our daughter was there. After indulging in the drama, we decided to brush our teeth and, out of habit, check the bathwater, only to find that familiar white liquid floating again. Despite feeling disgusted, I scooped it out with a bucket and disposed of it as usual. Since my husband came home early tonight, I decided to ask him. After you take a bath, there's always this white liquid floating on top. You know anything about that? What's that? What do you mean? It's there every day after you've used the bath. Sorry, I have no idea. There's something like that. What? What are you talking about? Hearing our conversation, our daughter, who had just finished brushing her teeth, came over. I briefly explained to her about the white liquid appearing after her dad's bath, and she immediately started searching on her smartphone. Let's look up bath, white liquid on the internet. We looked it up, and it mentioned stuff like bath scum and bacteria. Is that even a thing? Isn't it just because you're not cleaning properly? Hey, are you saying I'm slacking off on the cleaning? Plus, our bath is a recirculating 24-hour one. The machine should be keeping the water clean. I'm not necessarily saying you're slacking off. At this, my husband looked down guiltily. Come on, both of you, if it bothers you that much, why don't we just call a professional to check it out? Seemingly cheered by our daughter's support, my husband eagerly agreed. Right, let's contact someone about it soon. With that, all three of us decided to call it a night. Even though my husband had no clue about the mysterious white liquid, we thought getting a professional to look at it would solve the problem easily. The next morning, my husband woke up earlier than usual, knowing our daughter was there. We all had breakfast together, but our daughter hardly touched her food. What's wrong? Feeling under the weather? I just don't have an appetite this morning. I don't want to eat. Then you don't have to eat, but you should take the day off from work and go see a doctor. My husband becomes especially worried when it comes to our daughter. If you want, I can take the day off and go with you. You need to go to work properly. It would be ridiculous for a director to just take the day off suddenly. I'll see if I can start my shift later. I can't have you worrying over me. I'm fine, really, don't worry. After a bit of back and forth between me and my husband, it was decided that I would delay my part-time job to accompany our daughter to the doctor. After breakfast and seeing my husband off to work, I called my manager to get permission to come in late. Then, my daughter and I visited a nearby clinic. The clinic had just started accepting patients for the day, so there were only a few people there. Soon after, they called my daughter's name, and we went to the consultation room. I waited in the waiting room alone, but my daughter didn't come back for quite some time. As time passed, I started to worry. What if she's contracted some serious illness? Then, a nurse came over and said the doctor wanted to see me, urging me to the consultation room. Convinced it might be a serious illness, I tentatively stepped into the consultation room. The room was clean and neatly organized, with white as the base color. But my daughter wasn't there. The doctor, a man who seemed to have considerable experience, sat in silence with a solemn expression. He occasionally shook his head but said nothing. Doctor, what kind of illness does my daughter have? Is it life-threatening? Unable to stand the silence any longer, I asked the doctor. However, he reacted to my words without actually saying anything. How much time had passed? My daughter and a nurse then entered the consultation room. Mary, are you okay? I instinctively rushed to my daughter but was prompted by the nurse to sit down on a chair in front of the doctor. The doctor, after receiving some kind of container from the nurse, finally turned to us and spoke. Indeed, your daughter is pregnant. What? Pregnant? Yes, that's right. Based on the symptoms you described, I suspected as much and conducted a test. The pregnancy test came back positive. What? I blurted out loudly, surprised, and a bit embarrassed by my own reaction. Please visit an OB-GYN as soon as possible to get a thorough checkup. The doctor advised us, and we left the consultation room, holding hands and feeling jubilant. We settled the bill and decided to head straight to the OB-GYN. On the way, I was so filled with joy that I nearly skipped, but I managed to restrain myself. Upon visiting the OB-GYN, it was confirmed again that she was pregnant. The doctor advised us that since it's early in the pregnancy, she needs to be careful and take good care of herself. I immediately called my manager to take the day off and decided to stay with my daughter. I urged my daughter to call Steve right away. It seems Steve suggested that since he was away on a business trip, it would be best for her to stay at her parents' home for a while. We quickly went to my daughter's apartment, packed up some essentials, and headed to our house. I didn't go into details with my husband, but simply told him that we went to the hospital and that our daughter would be staying over again tonight. This would mean my husband would come home early again today. This morning, my daughter felt unwell due to morning sickness and had no appetite. I let her rest in her room and went above and beyond with the cooking, more so than usual. As expected, my husband came home earlier than usual. Given the situation at breakfast, he must have been worried about our daughter in his own way. As soon as he got home, he rushed to me, asking, "What did the doctor say?" and shook me back and forth by the shoulders. Overwhelmed by his intensity, I blurted out, "Don't get so worked up. Hey, you're hurting me, let go of me, I can't talk like this." To which he replied, "All right, sorry, I just get like this when it's about Mary. Calm down and listen, Mary is expecting." "What, expecting?" My husband froze in shock, his voice loud. "Hey, are you okay?" After he remained frozen for what seemed like ages, I called out to him, "I'm fine, just surprised." "It's really true then, she's pregnant." "So, I'm going to be a grandpa, huh?" he said, teary-eyed, with a mix of joy and the hint of sadness. "Hey, are you crying?" "No way, that can't be," my husband said, turning away. But I caught him secretly wiping his eyes. It was obvious he was crying, probably overwhelmed with joy at the thought of having a grandchild. That night, we finished our meal as usual, took turns bathing, and each of us enjoyed our own time. With Steve away on a business trip, Mary decided to stay with us for the while. The next day, after going to work, Mary reported her pregnancy to her boss and was told she could work from home. So she came back early to work on her laptop in her room. She's been working as her health allows and attending the OB/GYN. Whenever I'm off work, I try to accompany her as much as possible. My husband also wanted to come along, but given it was an OB/GYN, he was promptly denied. Steve visited our house to say hello after his business trip, but lamented he had to leave for another location soon. My husband and I assured him we'd take good care of Mary until he could return. Since then, Mary has been focusing on what's best for the baby and her decisions. Though my husband wished he could come home on time every day, his role as a director meant longer hours at work were becoming more frequent. Mary jokingly comments on her dad's dedication. "Hey, Dad, you're not staying out late because of an affair, are you?" "Of course not. That's ridiculous. No way, he's just an ordinary old guy." I laughed it off. Since finding out about the pregnancy, we've been living a life centered around Mary. However, her morning sickness turned out to be worse than we thought, leading her to take a leave of absence from work. It happened on a day when my husband was late coming home. After dinner and backs, as we were enjoying our nightly drama, Mary suddenly started feeling terribly unwell, unlike any discomfort she had experienced before. Sensing something was seriously wrong, I quickly called an ambulance. "Mary, are you okay? Hang in there." I could only encourage her as she became increasingly delirious, waiting for the ambulance to arrive, blaming myself for not knowing what went wrong. When the paramedics arrived, they acted swiftly to transport her to the hospital. Naturally, I went along to the hospital. Mary was given oxygen and wheeled into the ambulance on a stretcher. We quickly found a hospital for her, and upon arrival, she was immediately taken into the ICU on a stretcher. Without understanding why my daughter ended up in this situation, I was left waiting in the lobby, calling my husband and Steve to explain Mary's condition. My husband was worried. He said he would head to the hospital right away. Steve mentioned he couldn't return until his business trip was over. He asked us to look after her instead, and I assured him over the phone that we would take good care of her before hanging up. After a while, my husband arrived at the hospital, his hair disheveled from rushing. Some time passed before the doctor emerged from the emergency treatment room. We hurriedly approached the doctor, asking, "Doctor, is my daughter? Is she okay? Is she alive? Is it life-threatening?" "Please calm down, she's okay, she's pulled through," the doctor reassured us. Relieved at his words, I immediately thought of the baby. "Doctor, my daughter is pregnant. Is the baby okay too?" "Yes, the baby is fine. There's something I need to discuss about your daughter's condition, so please come with me to the consultation room," he said, comforting us before leading us into the consultation room. As we took our seats, the doctor immediately asked, "Has your daughter been to any public baths like hot springs or public bathhouses recently?" "She's been feeling unwell and experiencing severe morning sickness since her pregnancy, so she hasn't gone at all," I replied. "I see. Doctor, what's wrong with my daughter? Is her illness related to hot springs somehow? Please tell us." The doctor looked at us both before speaking. "Your daughter has Legionnaire's disease. It's caused by the Legionella bacteria and can lead to severe pneumonia and even death. Initial symptoms include fever, loss of appetite, and fatigue. As the disease progresses, it can cause high fever over 104 degrees Fahrenheit, coughing, chills, and difficulty breathing. Your daughter is in the early stages of pregnancy, right? The symptoms of fatigue and loss of appetite might have been mistaken for morning sickness. This bacteria typically lives in warm, moist environments and is transmitted through fine mist or droplets. Hot springs and public bathhouses are common places of infection, but as far as I remember, she hasn't been to any hot springs or bathhouses recently, especially since her morning sickness has been so severe that she took a leave of absence from work. Then, there's only one possible source of infection," the doctor said. "Where?" "Your home bath," he suggested. That made me gasp. "Actually, doctor, recently there's been a white liquid floating in our bath every day. Could that be related?" "I see. If there's a white liquid, it's likely related. Perhaps your bath is malfunctioning. Have you noticed any changes with the reheating function or anything else?" "Our bath has a mechanism that heats and circulates the water, so there were times we didn't change the water. It's my fault. After I bathed, the white liquid appeared, right? It's my fault. Because of me, Mary is, and the grandchild is." My husband slumped, blaming himself. Probably because I had mentioned the white liquid in the bath after his use. He thought he was the cause. "It's not your fault, Dad. Besides, your daughter and grandchild are okay. We managed to deal with it early, so we're not in serious danger. Is it safe for my daughter to stay at home if the bath was the source of infection?" "Yes, but please address the issue immediately to cut off the infection source. First, have the bath's machinery checked by a service provider for any malfunction or faults. Then ensure thorough cleaning of the bath and machinery, and try to keep the humidity low. When not in use, stop the machinery and drain the water to ventilate the area." "Understood. Is there anything else we should be cautious about?" "Nothing in particular. It doesn't spread from person to person. Likely, your daughter got infected because her immune system was weakened due to pregnancy." After the doctor's explanation, a nurse led us to Mary's hospital room. Mary lay there, breathing through a respirator. Seeing her like this brought both me and my husband down. If only we had the machinery checked earlier. I was disillusioned by my own shallow thinking. And to think it was just Mary this time. If we had continued using it, my husband could have been infected too, which sends shivers down my spine. Watching Mary's sleeping face, these thoughts crossed my mind. The feeling of remorse was strong, and I was reflecting on my actions. Without realizing it, both my husband and I had fallen asleep. From somewhere, I heard a voice. Hey, Mom, where are we? Startled awake by my daughter's voice, I saw that she had regained consciousness. My husband jumped up and hurriedly pressed the nurse call button. I'm so sorry, it seems it was my fault. The bath was the cause of you getting sick. But the doctor said both you and the baby are fine, so rest easy for now. I'll make sure the back issue is thoroughly resolved while you're in the hospital, I reassured her. Okay, the baby is safe, that's good. She replied and fell back asleep. Mary stayed in the hospital for about 2 weeks. Steve managed to visit the hospital between his business trips. There, we apologized again for our part in causing her illness. Steve kindly responded, in any case, it didn't turn into a big issue because you were there with her. Now that she's pregnant, I make sure to stay with you whenever I'm on a business trip. We could only apologize deeply to Steve. Before Mary came home from the hospital, we worked quickly to fix the bath environment. First, we called the 24-hour bath service provider to have it checked. The service provider explained that the water in the bath, despite being sterilized and filtered, could become a breeding ground for Legionella bacteria and other microorganisms if it's kept warm and circulated for long periods. They showed us especially how to clean the parts of the machine that are most susceptible to harboring these bacteria. From then on, we thoroughly cleaned the bath area and changed the water daily. The 24-hour bath system, which was introduced for convenience, turned out to be a misstep due to our lack of awareness. We also sterilized the whole house just to be safe. When Mary was finally discharged, my husband took some time off to pick her up from the hospital with me. We've thoroughly cleaned the bath that caused the illness and sterilized the house, so rest assured, I told her. You went through a lot of trouble, she said. It's all for you, it's the least we could do, we laughed together. Since then, Mary started staying with us whenever Steve was on a business trip. I put even more effort into keeping the house clean. Eventually, Mary safely delivered her baby. Both Mary and the grandchild are healthy, with no after effects from the Legionnaire's disease. Knowing how vulnerable babies are, we always make sure to use freshly heated water for the baby's baths. This incident was a stark reminder that taking action early is crucial when something seems off.